today, just about my journey, and I talk a lot about recognizing that I talk a lot about. Let me make sure you guys can hear me. I talk a lot about preparing to quit and things to think about. Um, okay, yeah, looks like my volume is working. Things to think about before you quit, and it's always like before you quit, before you quit, before you quit. But I today in my reflection, I said, there's some things that I really have like on my heart to share about like what happens when you're on the other side of it, right? So there's all of this mental gymnastics that goes on when you are preparing to take that leap and bet on yourself, right? For once. And finally, right? And you go through all of the motions and have all the feels, all the fears, all of the things. But then, so what happens when you actually do it, right? And so I don't know if you check out my Ask Me How I Know with Danielle, the coach series, but a lot of times I'm interviewing and having an open and live dialogue with other entrepreneurs other millennial entrepreneurs, most times who have taken the leap, right? And we talk about like what that process was before they leap, what it was like right after, and like where they are now. And so in this video, what I want to talk about is like three of the hardest shifts that I've experienced, that I've had to make after I took my leap of faith into full-time entrepreneurship. If you are here watching with me live, do me a favor and drop a comment and say hey and let me know so that I know that you're here. And if you happen to come back and watch the replay, drop hashtag replay so that I know you came back, and I'll come back through and show you some love as well. And if you, for some reason, are here and you don't know who I am, thank you for being here. I'm Danielle, the coach. I'm a certified life and leadership coach, and I help millennial entrepreneurs break up with the status quo and unapologetically create the life of their wildest dreams, their way, on their terms. Um, if you happen to be watching and you are either the straddler, you have a 9 to 5, your career professional, got about almost 2 decades in the game, but you know that you will not be retiring from that place, and not because you're taking your talents to another organization to work for them, but because you are going to put your talents to use for yourself. You have the call to entrepreneurship over your life, and you just aren't sure when you'll be able to quit. You aren't sure how you'll be able to quit. And what that breaks down to is you don't have the confidence to quit right now. If that's you, or if you have already taken the leap, right, and you're having some issue or struggling with like balancing all of the things, life, entrepreneurship, business, and leadership, listen, you don't have to figure this thing out by yourself, and you don't have to go it alone. Regardless of which side of the aisle you're on, based on what I just described, you have options, right? And the thing is, you have decisions to make. You have a lot that you're juggling, regardless of which side of the aisle that you're on, and you don't have to go it alone. It can feel lonely. It can be lonely, right? As you begin to separate yourself from the status quo, to think differently, to act differently, to feel differently, and to be unapologetic about it. It's an absolute flex. However, it can break you down if you do not have the support and community of other like minds and like spirits while you're on this journey, right? It can weigh on you. And because I know that, what it's like to be on that one side, straddling, doing that double Dutch rock, 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And I now know what it's like to be on the other side after taking the leap and having to figure out my whole new life, the life that I've created for myself, right? And I'm starting anew, like what that means and how to just exist, right? But still show up powerfully. If that's you, listen, and you are feeling like it's too much, you're overwhelmed, I want to invite you to book a complimentary strategy session with me. And what we'll do is we'll pull back the layers, and I'll see what you have going on and what next might look like for you, leveraging the most powerful version of you, right? And I'll be totally transparent and upfront now. If I feel like you are a good fit to work with me and I have something that to offer that can support you, I may make an invitation for you to work with me. And I'll let you know it's not free and it's not cheap. I'm putting it all out there so that when you book your call and we get on the phone, you know, like playtime is over. Like you are coming to get what you know that you deserve and what's been missing. If that's you, go to daniellethecoach.com/apply. And I did not put it in the description, but I'm gonna go back after the video and make sure you have it in the description and in the comments, okay? But go to daniellethecoach.com/apply, schedule your call, and we'll hash it out and see what next might look like for you, okay? So now, before I have to hop off and get to a session, right, with my client, 3 of the hardest shifts that I've had to make after I quit. The first one is being independent, being a full-time entrepreneur, but yet still thinking like an employee. There is this dichotomy between being strategic and being tactical, right? When I was had my 9 to 5, I've worked in leadership, I've been supervisor, all of the things, right? And even then, one of the hardest things for me to do when I took my first supervisor role, it was to break up with doing all the things. And I learned the hard way and the long way that as a leader, I can't lead and do the work. My work as a leader is different than what it was when I was on the front line. And because I learned that lesson the hard way, and it's something I've taken to heart and I've shared with other people on my journey, even those that I mentored and went in the professional space, right? I still carry that over into full-time entrepreneurship, and I have to chin check myself and remind myself that, you know what? There's a season where I have to wear basically all the hats while I'm figuring it out, right? But sooner than later, and I mean that in the literal and figurative senses, sooner than later, I had to break up with being okay with doing all the things. I had to enlist support. I had to enlist support from the tactical sense in hiring an assistant to help me do things that I really just don't need to be bothered with, because I have to be strategic as being the CEO of my own businesses and being the visionary and being able to articulate that and communicate it and be clear and make sure that I'm in alignment with who I'm supposed to be in the marketplace and what it is that I'm supposed to be doing, right? What it is that I'm purposed to do. So there is breaking up with thinking like an employee from that sense, from the strategic and the tactical, but then also understanding that I don't know everything about business, right? There's people who've come before me that have mastered this thing, they figured this thing out, and if they haven't figured everything out, they know way more than me. So part of that was enlisting sound coaches, mentors, whatever I needed, right, to collapse time and not just trudging along and figuring it out and taking the long route. So that was the first shift, is no longer thinking like an employee. The second shift was um, acting like an employee. And that kind of was in the first one as well. But there's the thinking like an employee, there's the acting like an employee in my own business, which again, when you make that leap, right, especially when your business is new, you might not be new to what you do and your skill and your gift, but the business is new. It's okay, I got to do all the things and be all the things, and it's my baby, and I take everything personal. And it's breaking up with the fact that, you know what, I won't be able to sustain myself at the highest levels of this game if I don't break up with it, right? Because your thoughts drive your actions. So they're intertwined, but thinking like an employee, I just want to show up and do the work and not thinking about the long game. So shifting from employee to definitely CEO, acting like an employee, doing all of the things, wearing all of the hats, right? And shifting to beginning to delegate and share the load with the right people at the right times, right? And if you're watching this, you're still with me, I want to remind you about the invitation to book a complimentary strategy session, right? If this resonates with you and you are having a hard time, if you're already on the other side and you've given your notice, you chucked the deuces, and you've dove in head first, and you're determined to figure this thing out, I salute you, I commend you, and I celebrate you. But I want to be for you what somebody else, several other people have been for me, right? And that's a support system, right? A cheering section, an accountability partner, a gap closer, and someone who aids in time collapsing for you because you're not out here doing it the hard way by yourself. I want to invite you to book a complimentary strategy session with me. Go to daniellethecoach.com/apply, complete the application, and we'll have a conversation and we'll see what comes of it. And if I think that there's a good fit and we're in alignment, I may make an invitation for you to work with me. Okay. The third shift that I had to make was, and this is it's been a little bit difficult because I've been conditioned as a career professional for over a decade. But the third one is paying myself like an employee. So the first was thinking like an employee, the second was acting like an employee, and the third one is paying myself like an employee. Like I control when I get paid, right? And for a while, I was saying, oh, okay, I'll pay myself every 2 weeks. And then I got hip to the game and I'm like, well, why? Why would I subject myself to that same type of pattern if I don't have to? I'm in control. So when I get paid is when I move money to my account, right? I'm in control. And the way my business is set up, I use the profit first model. So if you haven't read that book or listened to it, I highly, 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 highly recommend getting on that ASAP. Um, so when I disperse the monies, I can get paid every day if I want to. If I'm making money every day, I control that. And so that kind of was the thing that sparked me wanting to come and share these three shifts, right? And it has to do with transitioning from employee to CEO, thinking like an employee, acting like an employee, paying myself like an employee. No, I'm the CEO. I'm in charge, right? And it's been so freeing, like breaking up with the conditioning of being a career professional, right? Keeping somebody on the hamster wheel, keeping somebody else's lights on. So those are my three shifts that have been really, 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 really eye-opening and a little bit challenging breaking up. I think the first two were the most challenging breaking up. This over a decade of career professional, and then time before that being groomed to be a career professional. So there's it. I would be doing myself a disservice by not giving myself grace to say, okay, you've been a full-time entrepreneur for 2.5 years now, right? Give yourself some grace. But I'm here to tell you that the sooner that you can get hip to that and recognize those patterns of behavior and the conditioning and to decondition yourself, the quicker the game can change. And so it's my hope that it will take you less time than it took me to kind of begin to intentionally undo that conditioning that happens when we're in the professional space. Okay? So one more time, I want to make the invitation to book a complimentary strategy session with me. All you got to do is go to daniellethecoach.com/apply. I'm going to put it in the description of the video as well as in the comments when I wrap this recording. Okay. Thank you if you were here with me live. And yes, Jasmine, we don't have to do things the hard way. There is help available. Couldn't be more true. Spoken like someone who knows. Absolutely, positively, 100%. Absolutely. So if you're here with me live, thank you for being here. If you catch the replay, don't forget to drop #replay so that I know you came through and watched it, and I'll come back through and show you some love. All right, I'll see you next time.